Hey everyone, Stephanie Robilio here, licensed clinical social worker, published author, and the chief clinical officer at Agape Behavioral Healthcare, and you are tuning into the Stephanie Robilio podcast, your go-to resource for transforming your mental health and overall wellness. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Feeling super stoked that I am recording another episode in less than a month. Usually I'm showing up about once a month. Sometimes it's once every few months. But here I am in August having the space to record 2 episodes. And I have to say, lately my husband has been going fishing early on Saturday mornings. And so it's giving me the inspiration to wake up and do something that I love, which is recording. He loves fishing and I love doing this. And so it's just so funny because if he weren't fishing, obviously I would be spending time with him, doing our favorite, which is going to the gym and having breakfast. I definitely still had breakfast, never, ever, ever missing an opportunity to eat these days. But anyways, today I feel inspired to talk about the idea, the practice, the concept of self-love, what it truly is, and also what it isn't. I think that nowadays, especially with social media and all the keywords and the trending this and the captions and the hashtags, we hear so much about self-love, right? It's talked about all the time, but I still feel like there's a lot of misconceptions. And so I want to clear this up with you all because self-love is a practice that can and will change your life. And every single one of us deserves to do whatever it takes to get to that space in our life where we truly love ourselves and have a relationship with ourselves, understanding the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important relationship. It impacts every area of our life. And so self-love, right? Well, it sounds obvious, like love yourself. Yes, that is what it means to love yourself. But what does it mean to love yourself? I think that it's more than just to say, hey, I look in the mirror and I like what I see, or I love who I am. I think that it really comes down to what is it that you do every single day, and what is it that you don't do every single day that is aligned with what it means to love yourself. And so it really begins with accepting yourself as you are. It's about recognizing that you are worthy and you are good enough just for being you. Every single one of us, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And I think a huge part of self-love is really learning how to accept the parts of you that maybe you don't like. And if there are parts that can be changed, then change them. There are certain things about us that maybe we can't change. And then it's our responsibility to learn how to accept those parts, just like it's our responsibility to change the parts of us that can be changed. And then having self-compassion. I think nowadays, again, with social media, most of us, if we're honest with each other, it's only natural to compare and, get stuck in this loop thinking of, you're not doing enough, or I should be this, or I should be that, or I wish that. And so I think it's really about learning how to treat yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and love that you would offer a friend, right? It's so easy for us to be loving and supportive to a friend, and even to have grace for our friends and family members. But for some reason, when it comes to us, it can be really difficult. And so what this means is, let's say if you make a mistake, or if you don't follow through on something you said you were going to follow through on, don't spend too much time, if any, beating yourself up. Self-love involves having grace for yourself and forgiving yourself and learning from the experience rather than being critical. It's normal and natural to make mistakes. We're not always going to hit it out of the park. Even when we aim to hit it out of the park, sometimes we might fall short, and that is okay. So part of self-love is really learning how to have that self-compassion and just be nice to yourself. I know from my own firsthand experience, there are times that I am just so hard on myself, and it absolutely does not help me at all. If anything, it perpetuates the feelings I don't want. And so I have really learned that it is so important to have grace and love for yourself. So I hope that you can do the same. And then one of my favorite points to talk about as it relates to self-love is the importance of having healthy boundaries. This applies for everything. Healthy boundaries with family members, healthy boundaries with friends, healthy boundaries with, let's say, clients, healthy boundaries in the workplace, in intimate relationship that you might be in. It doesn't matter the context. in all areas of your life, having healthy boundaries. And the most important part to have these boundaries is with yourself. Sometimes it can be really easy to set a boundary, let's say with someone else, but can you hold yourself accountable? Can you hold that boundary when it's just you and you in the room? No one's watching. That's the real test to your self-control. And so self-love is about setting and maintaining boundaries. It's a form of self-love, right? Because what this means is that you know your own limits and you're not overextending yourself to please others, or you're not doing things that you know don't serve and support yourself. So for example, let's say you are an individual who really wants to get in better shape. Well, then a boundary that you might set for yourself is that you're going to limit the amount of sugar or junk food or even caffeine that you take in, right? Like that's a boundary you're setting for yourself. Your healthy boundary is that you are going to make choices that are better around what you eat, what you consume. And you're the only person who can hold yourself to that, right? Or maybe the boundary is I'm committing that every day I'm going to walk for 10 minutes over sitting on my cell phone scrolling Instagram for 10 minutes, right? Like that's the boundary. And so you have to be able to know what it is that you need and then hold yourself to it. And beyond that, as it relates to relationships, if a person truly has self-love, that means they have self-respect, which means they will not stay in situations or in relationships with people who bring drama, negativity, and toxicity, because you love yourself so much. You love yourself so much that you have the courage to walk away. And beyond that, something I've learned through my own healing in family dynamics and relationships is that when you love the other person so much, you will also hold the healthy boundary. Because if you don't hold the healthy boundary, you rob that person of an opportunity to heal. You rob that person an opportunity to heal. I thank my therapist for this and my mentor. This is something that she taught me. And it's funny because I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a therapist, but let's keep it real. Sometimes when it comes to applying this work on our own lives, it can be really challenging, especially when it's with somebody you love. But I have learned with the help of an amazing mentor and therapist that when you are in a relationship with a family member or a close friend or whoever, and that person is not changing and you are trying to change, it's not their fault that they're not changing. It's your responsibility to hold the healthy boundary. And when you love yourself, you will hold that boundary, no matter the voice of guilt that creeps in telling you, oh, you should call her, you should call him. No matter what, you hold that boundary. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable, man. I've been practicing this now for the last, intentionally practicing this for the last couple of years. And it's really, really hard. And it's also really freeing. It's really freeing. And the truth is like every single person is responsible for how they show up in relationships, in life, at work, and in the world. And, if you're anything like me, where I'm unlearning patterns of enabling and patterns of people pleasing, it can be really difficult not to jump in and not to rescue. But you have to get to that point in your life where you realize your needs are just as important. Your needs are just as important. Your emotional healing is important. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to experience inner peace. And sometimes that means we have to set some boundaries, and it can be hard, but it is what it is. Obviously, we know part of self-love is self-care. So doing the things that make you feel good, whether it's physical activity, like riding your bike, going to the gym, or things like taking a hot bath, getting a massage when you can, getting a facial, journaling, using your affirmations, right? Engaging in the things that make you feel good, not making excuses for why you can't show up and do things that make you feel good. I know it's way too easy to say, well, I can't ride my bike today because I have to do laundry, or I don't have time to do gratitude in the morning because I'm rushing to get out of the front door. Like, that's too easy to make excuses. I'm a big believer today. Every single one of us, we have a cell phone in our hand, and every single one of us, we're spending at least 15 minutes, if not more, on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all these other social media platforms. So if you are that person who has even 5 minutes to go on social media, then that means you have 5 minutes for yourself. But it comes down to your priorities. And I think that when you really cultivate a practice that helps you better love yourself, it becomes easier to choose the thing that is better for you. So we know exercising or doing a gratitude list or doing something that makes you feel good is way better than sitting there scrolling on social media. But again, you have to see that you are worthy of giving yourself that time and space. And so again, there's no right way to love yourself. There's no wrong way to love yourself. What matters is that you take the time to get clear on what do you most need and develop a daily consistent practice, right? Remember, routines are roadmaps for the life you want. Routines are roadmaps that lead you to feeling good and having a healthy relationship with yourself. So get clear about what can you do every day to practice loving yourself. No different than the way you show up and love, let's say, your mom, your dad, your children, your husband, your wife, your partner, your cousins, your friends, your coworkers. Like, how do you show them love, right? How do you show them love? Take those same things and apply it to yourself. Treat yourself like you are a friend. Because really that's what it comes down to. Can you develop a friendship with yourself? Are you okay when it's just you and you? When no one's watching, are you nice to yourself? When no one's watching, are you holding your boundaries? When no one's watching, are you making healthy choices? Right? Do you know what to say yes to and what to say no to? These are really important questions to take the time to think about. And then of course we know self-love is not about being self-absorbed. I think sometimes people might think like, oh, well, if I, am all into self-love, then that must mean I have this big ego. And no, that's not what self-love means, right? Like there's a difference between self-love and being self-absorbed or self-centered. But it's okay to love yourself. It's okay to make yourself a priority. It's not selfish and it's not ego-driven at all. It means that you are so wise and mature that you know you are your own responsibility. And we know that self-love, a part of it is, yes, you want to treat yourself nice, but it's not about being, overly indulgent in things and like, oh, I love myself so much that I get to treat myself to just eating junk food for this entire week. Like that's just an example. Like, no, that's not what self-love means. Sure, you can have moments of like cheat meals, as they say, or indulging in the things that give you glimmers of joy. But again, you want to take care of you. You want to take care of you. And this part I want to highlight, self-love does not mean perfection. It's not about being perfect. It's more about, can you choose to be okay and be one with yourself despite the imperfections? I speak from firsthand experience. If you've been connected with me, you know that I am seriously recovering from a pattern of perfectionism that and in certain points in my life was crippling. It was so counterproductive. My attempt to be perfect caused so many issues. And that's not what self-love means, right? If anything, self-love is recognizing that we're not always going to hit it out of the park, like I said earlier, and that's okay. We're not always going to wake up and feel positive. We're not always going to have the energy to go above and beyond. We're not always going to have the energy to show up. We're going to want to give up sometimes. We're going to fall down. We're going to want to stay in bed. We're going to want to not face the world. We're going to want to say, why am I working on this? Like, all of it's okay, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about seeing yourself. It's about noticing the old self when she shows up and doing something different, having that grace, having that self-compassion, as I mentioned earlier. That's what self-love is. We do know that self-love is definitely not avoiding accountability, right? It is way too easy to blame other people, to blame people and places and things. But self-love is about holding yourself accountable. It is not about avoiding accountability. So it doesn't mean that we get to avoid responsibility for actions or our actions. And it's really important that every single person recognizes the areas that they need to change and then make those changes rather than just excusing faults and failures. I have found that it's just way too easy to say, well, I'm this way because of this, or I feel this way because I don't have this. Like, that's just an easy cop out. So self-love is 100% about holding yourself accountable and making sure that you are doing the work to give yourself what you need and the life that you desire. It's no one's responsibility to do it for you. And the same is true in relationships. It's no one's responsibility. It's not a one-side street. Like, we all play a role in every situation. And if we're in a situation, the only way we got there is because we contributed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in that situation. And so really owning our part is part of self-love. And really that's part of emotional maturity, right? That's what it means to be an emotional, mature adult. And then we know that with being an emotional, mature adult means that sometimes we might have to face criticism. And I think that that's really important to know that it's get to that point in your journey where you do the work, you do that inner work, you stay committed to self-help so that you can receive constructive feedback, you can receive constructive criticism and not take it personal and not let it send you down, an unhealthy path or start to spiral. There was a time in my life where I used to take everything personal, and my goodness, what a waste of time and energy. It's hard to realize that what people say and do has nothing to do with us, but I also think that part of this practice of self-love is realizing that every single human, all of us, we are truly doing the best we can with what we have. And people can only support us to the level they can support themselves. And so sometimes someone might say something and it might feel like it's coming across sideways, but that's not about you. Don't make it about you. Stand strong in your truth. And let other people stand strong in their truth. It's not our responsibility to make people sway one way or the other. Everybody has their own process, their own journey, their own experiences. And we have to honor that, not only in ourselves, but in other. And I think that self-love really does involve being open to feedback and using that feedback to improve. Because if we want to be better, then we have to know that we don't know it all. We have to be willing to have people share with us feedback, whether it's coming from your own therapist, a mentor, maybe your mom, maybe your dad, maybe your husband, spouse, partner, your brother, your sister, whoever, your coworker, right? Your CEO, your partner in business, whoever it is. We have to have an open mind to receive feedback. That's the only way we're going to get better. If we go through life with a closed mind and only see things through our perspective, well, we're limiting ourselves and we're really missing out. And so, I just want to invite you all to really take time to think about how have you been showing up for yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? In what ways can you be better for you? Not be better to prove yourself to anybody, but how can you be better for you? If you truly had to become your own friend, what qualities would you want to see in yourself? What values would you bring to the table? Who would you be? Right? Who are you as a friend? And how can you be that amazing friend that you are to others, to yourself? How can you be the amazing friend you are to others, to yourself? Because at the end of the day, we're only left with ourselves, right? We can be in a room full of people and feel very, very alone. And usually that's because we're not connected to ourselves. There's a disconnect. But if you make a commitment to self-love, understanding that it is a daily practice that requires self-awareness and action to create change. If you stay committed to that, I can almost guarantee not only will you begin to feel better, your mental health will improve, your overall wellness will improve, the quality of your life will improve, and you will begin to experience really desirable outcomes. But you are the only one who can do it. So today and always, hold yourself accountable no matter how hard it is. Do not point the finger at other people. Do not point the finger at places, at past pain, at past trauma. We only have this moment now, the present moment. The only moment is right now. What are you willing to do right now to cultivate a better, more healthy relationship with yourself? Until the next episode, lots of love. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you found today's episode to be insightful and inspiring, drop me a review so together we can help the next person, and come connect with me on social at Stephanie Robilio and find all of my books on Amazon. Until the next episode, stay mindful and always remember the power that lives inside of you.